Hey, see my cool hat? Hey.
Hey, an alien.
Fitting.
Aliens.
Since today we're doing our top 10 lists again, and we are doing conspiracy theories.
When it comes to Disney World and Walt, the truth is out there.
Or in somewhere, who knows?
It's on a lot of websites, I'll tell you that. I had a lot of fun looking up these because some of them I already knew or I had heard many times before, heard them debunked many times before, but a couple of them were definitely new to me. So, you want to start with the first one on our list?
Well, see, I saw you said something. There was something about the Illuminati.
It's the
Illuminati.
I don't know
What's going on
when this
with
whole
the
Illuminati thing became so big, but it pretty much involves everyone on Earth at this point, I think.
It doesn't involve me.
But
I know nothing about this.
Many theories that
Cross
claim.
my heart, I know nothing about this.
Swear.
Yeah.
That Disney is not only a member of the Walt Disney is not only a member of the Illuminati, but was quite possibly the leader of it. They also always accuse him of being a Mason. What other temple?
Temple. He's a Templar.
Yeah, Templar. They said that he's. Back in the day, they used to always say, I mean, it's not new claiming that he was a member of some elite power organization. That's not new because they've been saying that for decades. I think just calling it specifically the Illuminati is kind of a new twist on that.
It's just a different word for the same thing.
There are lots of really cool sites talking about this. One of them that I found that developed it quite a bit was the Conspiracy Zone. There's a couple others. But basically what they're saying is that he had an incredible amount of power. He belonged to this organization who backed him.
Oh, yeah.
And then that he's using the power of his parks and his movies to spread their message and control.
He's a very powerful man.
All.
Or was.
They cite a lot of movies as having symbols in them. Not only Illuminati symbols, but sometimes like satanic symbols and stuff like that. Remember the one we were looking at? Do this, spell out, use the Disney font, spell out Walt Disney. We'll put it on the screen and you can look for yourself what it looks like.
Yes.
Or Walt Disney. If you look at the first W, the first little line in loop makes a 6. And then on the end of the word,
if you look at the Y, you can sort of see another 6.
Sort of another 6.
Now, here's the bonus round to give you a half a second to try to find this one. The hidden 6 in the middle. We'll give you a hint. It's not the D. Look next to it. It's the I. Apparently, the dot in the I is swirly enough to make a 6.
Yeah, it's no, it's not. Are you serious? It's a circle with a. But that's what they say. 666. So that's proof. Because his stylized font that they used to spell his name, that's his real name, he didn't make that name up, spell 666.
Yeah, if you happen to write it a certain way. You know, if you write almost anything a certain way, you can make almost anything you want.
Yeah, you can read into anything. 6s can be found everywhere. It's a very easy little, shape to find.
A hair makes a 6.
Anything with curly
or
cues.
9.
Yeah, hair, clouds, cotton. I mean, anything
Piece
that
of
has
wire.
like loopies and swirls in it, you can find 6s in. So if you really want to find it, you can find it.
And continuing on the trend of finding things wherever you want to find them.
Yes. Number 2.
People have found things that deal around sex or other hidden images or even subliminal images in Disney films.
Well, there's no doubt there have been
popular.
A few that actually existed for whatever reason.
About a handful of them in all their films.
But they're not subliminal messages in the sense of the old Keyes book from way back in the day. If you're old like me and you remember that, they're not intended to brainwash you or anything like that. Most of them are either tricks, like when the animators were making the film, they just kind of snuck one in there.
They snuck an extra frame in
as
there
a
that
joke.
didn't belong.
And back in the day, when these were all films and they were shown on movie theaters, there was zero chance you were going to see it because it was zooming past or however many
At least 24 to 30 frames per second.
So 24 to 30 frames a second, you weren't going to see one single frame. But they weren't counting on the fact that they were going to be made into DVDs and
freeze frame became popular.
And you can freeze it, and you can rewind it, and you can take a screenshot of it and put it on your favorite blog. And so they've made the rounds. Some of them have been removed from later copies, like in The Rescuers. There was a very famous scene where, as Bianca and Bernard are talking, if you look in a window back behind them, there's an actual naked lady in the window. She's nude from the waist up. And that was actually there, and they admitted it. It was put in the original film in the 70s, and it was removed in the 90s when it was re-released. But so many people were freaking out about it, Disney actually recalled all the copies. We still have our copy, because you can recall it if you want to. It's mine. I'm keeping it. I like that movie. I don't care about a naked woman in one frame.
That you can do, which is Fantasia.
Yes.
They had to change a few scenes in Fantasia because who were they? Was the mermaids naked?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and
then
there
was a
was
black.
But we're gonna talk about that one later on
Okay.
on another. But yeah, they actually did remove a few frames. You're right, from Fantasia. I hadn't even thought about that one. But some of the hidden messages that people find in the film are really like, are you serious? The word sex supposedly appears in 2 different movies.
At least two.
The Lion King is the classic one where they say
Yes.
the swirlies of the stars at one scene.
Or no, it was he kicked up some dust.
Or whatever it was.
When he lays
in
down.
the night, and it's a scene and there's stars and you can see supposedly.
Once someone writes it out, you can see it.
Once someone says it to you, hey, that's what
Power of
sex. Then you look
persuasion.
again, yes, and it looks like it. But if they hadn't told you that, would you have seen it?
And I'll show you the
Probably
more
not.
recent. I'll show you the better one. Entangled. In one of the
Yes.
photos that
That
they
one's
show
ridiculous.
to promote it, it has the hair wrapped around the dude, and if you happen to write on top of the hair, you can make the word sex appear.
The X kind of looks like an X, and the S could be because this shape
Again,
never appears anywhere in nature, right? So the S kind of looks like an S, the X kind of looks like an X. The E is really playing, come on. No, it's not. It's not the word sex. It just, you can find the word sex written anywhere if you, and they get to play because they can go, oh, we write in small letters or capital letters. That's not really fair.
no.
Look, if it doesn't actually spell sex, in clearly discernible letters, it's not. I don't care what it looks like. That's actually a phenomena, a psychological phenomena. A couple of the skeptics talk about it a lot, where once it's suggested to you that a shape is there, you'll see the shape, even if the shape isn't there, because our mind wants to make
Sense
recognizable shapes. And so when you see just like a mess, just a tangle or an odd form that's just sort of nebulous, we have a tendency to project onto its shapes. That's why you can look at clouds for a couple of minutes and all of a sudden shapes start forming. You can see, cats and camels and stuff. They're not really there. They're just, it's clouds. We know that when we're doing it intentionally, but sometimes we do it unintentionally and we don't realize that's what we're doing. Your mind is just trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. So, all those crazy hidden messages and Illuminati. Oh, the famous Jessica Rabbit scene.
Yes.
The problem with that one is, guys, that was not a Disney movie. Yes, they bought it later, but when it was made, they gave permission for some of their characters to be used, like Mickey and Donald, but it was not made by Disney.
Technically.
And the animators were not Disney animators.
No.
And Jessica Rabbit most certainly was not a Disney invention. It
No.
came from the book directly, and the animators drew her to be sexy and all that. And as a joke, there's a scene where you can see up her skirt. There's a claim that you can see
Something up there.
much more. You can look that up for yourself if you're a grown-up. But the reality is it's an animated figure, you weirdos. If you really want to look at cartoon
woohoo
sex parts, knock yourself out. But it really doesn't look like anything but a dark area of her body. That's all. And they have removed it from
Of course.
later releases. So if you get a later release, you're not going to be able to zoom through and find it. But if you find one of the old copies still on the shelves, you can. So it's not really fair to count that against Disney, though.
No, because it's not even theirs. But everyone adds it on, even though, because they release it now.
There's some other really dumb ones that are in. I'm not even going to go, but they're like Little Mermaid. They make claims, and sometimes I see like sort of nebulous shapes on things, and they say it's suggestive of like the castle shape on one of the videos kind of looks like.
Well, I remember
a rocket.
That I remember that one. They redid the cover image on the VHS for the Little Mermaid because the original one. It looks like something it shouldn't have been, needless to say.
But it's just suggestive in the way that a lot of things with that general tall, pointy shape, like the Eiffel Tower or something, kind of has that unfortunate resemblance. So.
That's just human nature, people. Get over it.
It's just an unfortunate resemblance. It wasn't intentional.
I also say there's a lot of drugs in films.
Yeah,
and drug references.
And people try so hard to insist that this is true. Now, the one I thought was stupidest was the one we just found, which was a Snow White.
Okay, that one...
Really?
That one... And first of all, there is no hidden drug in
there's nothing hidden. It's pretty blatant.
The witch poisons... sorry to ruin this for you, but the witch poisons
I think you know this
Snow White.
That's the whole point, right? She puts the poison in the comb, or in the apple and in the comb. I don't know if they use the comb in the movie.
No comb in the movie,
that was
but
the
in the other
version.
stories.
But
whatever story you're watching.
That's the whole story. Is the witch poisons Snow White. That's it for the drug aspect. There's no other drug aspect anywhere in that movie. Anywhere. If you can watch that and find another drug aspect, you have definitely got a conspiracy mind going on. That's it. And it even has like a little skull and crossbones that comes up as she's stirring. So that's poison. When you talk about drugs, it's not talking about like recreational drugs. Yeah. So I don't.
She didn't feed Snow White ecstasy or anything like that.
Get it. Yeah. That hurts my head when people say things like that.
What else? The Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, that's a classic. Everybody insists that Alice in Wonderland is about drugs, and they have like there's a whole history and theory that goes along with this, because at the time when Lewis Carroll was writing the story, some drugs were very popular, particular drugs, and so there were the whole house dens where people would go and they would get they would smoke a hookah and get high. So that actually did exist. So that probably is where he got the hookah pipe that the caterpillar smokes. But note, everyone in the thing is not smoking hookah pipes. Just him, right? Just the caterpillar. And I think she takes a puff on him or something, does she? But
depends on which version you watch.
The point of Alice in Wonderland is not that she's in a drug daze. The point is it's like a dream. It's a dream. Everything's supposed to look dreamlike. When you use drugs, it's like a dream. Therefore, the movie is like a dream, not like... Even if it was like drugs, it would be like a dream because drugs are presenting this dream. If you
really wanted to pull it that far.
And you might also note that you can smoke things other than drugs with a hookah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the most common use of a hookah is for actually tobacco. So get over yourself. He may have intended to be making him smoke drugs, but he's a caterpillar.
A talking caterpillar with perfect etiquette, no less.
Yeah, people just like to think that because it's so wild and crazy, it must be about an acid trip. Acid trips weren't even what people were doing at that time. They were doing opium.
Well,
big difference.
The same
you don't get the wild, crazy dreams with opium. You just feel really good and really calm.
Well, the same could be said for the Heffalump scene in Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, that's the other famous one. And they love to make... you couldn't possibly have crazy, weird characters doing these strange... They turn into bubbles and things.
It's a cartoon, people!
It's a cartoon. It's supposed to be a dream. And in the original Winnie the Pooh series, there were Heffalumps. So they were like, well, what's a Heffalump supposed to look like? And then they just let their imagination run wild.
That's the point.
If you can't have an imagination without having drugs, then what the hell's a... Oh, excuse me.
Oh, wow.
We'll put the bleep over it.
Bleep! And then Fantasia.
And Fantasia is another one that they love to claim is a drug thing. And part of the explanation for that one is that it became more popular after it made the rounds, remade the rounds in the 60s.
Aha.
When everybody was into drugs. But honestly, there's lots in Fantasia that you wouldn't need to be high, and it doesn't suggest being high in it. I mean, the Mickey Mouse Sorcerer.
It's cool.
Is a story. The little duck, the little sequence with the duck, which they do to the It's supposed to be about ducks, so they drew ducks. Where's the drugs in that? I don't understand. The Night on Bald Mountain does not make me think drugs at all. It makes me think mythology and religion, which is really where it's coming from. The fairies.
Sugar plum fairies, yeah.
Sugar plum fairies. The
Dun, dun, dun.
I love Fantasia, the original
Very
Fantasia.
Winter Wonderland.
Love the original. The second Fantasia was pretty cool too, but I like the first one.
Oh yeah.
None of that really makes me think drugs. You have to be on drugs to think this crazy.
You have to be on drugs to enjoy classical music, apparently.
I think the one that most people refer to is the hippos and the ostriches dancing, which
But
is
it's just classic Disney cartoon comedy. That's all it is.
That's Iwerks, and that's the famous cartoonists of that period who were making houses dance and sing, and flowers danced and sing, and why couldn't hippos and ostriches?
And the funny thing of a hippo wearing a tutu—that's just funny.
I mean, it's just like, what is the funniest animal I could put in the least dainty character imaginable, and that's what they went with. So
that's the point.
Silly hippos and ostriches thinking they're
silly.
beautiful and dainty. So I don't see any drugs in there at all.
What about racism? There's a lot of racism in Disney films.
The racism claim, there's kind of I have two views on the racism. I think that the earlier Disney, it's kind of unmistakable. You really can't deny it.
But think about when they were made and what times they predict.
Right, and
the times they're also showing in those films.
And the characters that they were basing those characters on, that's what you saw. You saw those characters, so that's what you were drawing. And then in more modern times, I think people they're just really trying hard to see racism because they want to complain about something.
So they're extending it out from those original films. They're saying, "Oh, look, they haven't changed their ways."
And if you can point to back then and say it's an obvious case of really extreme racism, then it's really easy to just use that as proof of something. The one that you pointed out though about Fantasia, that one is kind of
yes, with the what was it, a black something or what was it? I remember the scene, but I don't remember who they are.
Buttercup,
I know the name was Buttercup. What was it? Hippogriff?
I'm trying to think what they're called.
Centaur.
Centaur. There you go. Yeah, the centaur. The only little black centaur, and she's got the little braids.
It's a pretty little racist little Buttercup character.
The whole drawing, she looks sort of like the Pickaninny drawing that was common at one time. And what is she doing? She's not dancing and cavorting with the others. She's
serving.
She's doing their nails and shining their
She's
hooves.
helping them with other things.
Not cool.
A little bit of a servant accent, and then that's something that they had in the original.
Yeah, and
they later ones and blah blah blah.
Yeah, to clean up their image, they got rid of that one.
So they know that there was...
not to offend people, but it's to clean up their image.
Yes.
But it was a little racist.
And the crows and Dumbo.
The crows and Dumbo. And see, I feel kind of two ways about the crows and Dumbo.
Because they are a little bit.
They are a little bit racist.
But at the same time, they're not quite as bad as some people like to make them.
Yeah, some people like. One of the things, one of the
some
comments.
Some people are a little ignorant when it comes to this.
Yeah, I don't think they know the history as well as they think they do. Because I heard one of the comments that kind of annoyed me was they're wearing pimp hats and pimp. No,
it's called Zoot Suits.
They wouldn't have even. I don't think Disney would have even imagined using a pimp outfit on anyone ever. No one is a pimp in a Disney movie. Pimps don't exist in Disney World. Tex Avery would use a pimp. They're Zoot Suit outfits that they're wearing. They're wearing the typical costume of a particular urban group of blacks at that particular time in history, when black people for the first time were really starting to get a sense of themselves, of their own culture, and they were sort of becoming more assertive in the world, and so they had developed this whole urban culture, and so much so that actually at one point there was a Zoot Suit riot. It's kind of famous or infamous. You should probably look it up sometime. And they actually tried to make Zoot Suits illegal in some. They may have actually succeeded in making them illegal in some areas. I don't know, but I know a lot of schools banned them and things like that. These tended to be like urban, what we call urban youth, like guys 18 to 20, 30, somewhere in that age range. And yes, they did smoke. And one of the things that this person complained about was, well, they're all smoking.
At
the time, everyone smoked. the 30s and 40s and 50s was smoking was the cool thing to do, and it didn't have necessarily a negative
connotation
aspect to
yet.
it. You know, not for grown people. These were supposed to be grown people. These weren't high school kids.
No.
Okay.
So that's the other problem.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to be children. They were supposed to be adults. And then, you know, people.
The way they talk.
Yeah, and one person said, "Oh, they sound so uneducated." What are you basing uneducated on? Because they talk like street people? I talk like street people, and I'm pretty well educated. I have a college degree. I just don't sound like it most of the time. I know a lot of people who sound pretty street or urban or country, and they actually have a pretty good I think it's kind of racist to hear someone talking in what was a typical speech pattern for the time for that group and say, oh, they're uneducated.
Yeah, it shows how uneducated you are.
Uneducated would be as if they used a lot of sentences where they obviously didn't understand what the words meant or something, like sort of Archie Bunkerisms and those kind of things. And nobody objected to Archie Bunker. No, white people didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least white people didn't object to it.
And he pretty much made us look as bad as you can look. So I don't have. I mean, they present a stereotypical image, but I don't think it's the stereotype that you think it is. It was a stereotype of a very specific time frame.
Not so much of a people, of a time.
And you have to remember they were the good guys.
Yeah, there's no.
They felt sorry for Dumbo, and they stood up for him, and they told him that he should have belief in himself, and they kind of made fun of him because they were, fun-loving guys. They're, dudes hanging out on the corner making fun of other dudes. But they cheered him up, and they encouraged him and wished him well, and they certainly they weren't mean in any way. So King Louie.
A lot of people call him racist too.
Yeah. I think they object to the image of a monkey being a black person because there's kind of that view in our collective conscious that people call black people monkeys and make fun of their big lips and stuff. So therefore, if you draw a monkey and you make it a black person, there's a problem. But again, remember when they drew this, and think about what they actually were intending to do.
But what voice would you want King Louie to have?
I mean, I don't think it. Yeah, they could have made it a white guy. It wouldn't have mattered. But I love the song in it. But they did the whole movie in that, a scat man, that style, scat and jazz style. So you got the, ooby-doo.
I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you. Talk like you. You say it's true. And ape like me. Can't learn to be human too.
But yeah, it could be a little racist because how many other black characters did they have? However, I would point out that the one truly black character in the movie is the hero animal, the black leopard, and jaguar, whatever you want to call him. And he's, he's gorgeous, and he's the smartest character in the book, and he's the good guy. He's trying to help Mowgli, and he's telling the bear that, hey, we have to take Mowgli back to the human village and everything. So, the one really, truly heroic figure in the story is actually black, although he's voiced by a white guy.
Yeah.
But you don't know that because you can't see the dude.
You can see through cartoons.
Really tough. And then who's the bad guys? The Shere Khan and Ka are not black. Also, I would remind those of you who fail to remember that monkeys are the most evolved of the animals. They're second only to humans. So the most evolved animal in that movie is
besides Mowgli.
He's
a kid.
And Mowgli is Indian.
Yeah, he's Indian.
Very clearly, he is dark skinned, dark hair, dark eyes. They did not try to whiten him up or make him look, less ethnic or whatever you want to call it. So I think there's a hint of the racism just from the fact that, black people are, I guess it would be more, it's not so much a hint of racism, it's a hint of insensitivity to the fact that black people have traditionally been compared to monkeys, and so they might not like seeing a black voice coming out of a monkey. But aside from that, it's not particularly racist. They don't present him as particularly unsympathetic. I always felt sorry for the dude. I was like, yeah, give him fire. No, he'll set fire to the jungle. But was he really making such an unrealistic demand? He wasn't really a true bad guy in any real sense. He wasn't trying to hurt Mowgli or anything like that. He wanted more power, which is natural. He's a king, and he wants to be in charge. He is a monkey. He should have been in charge.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. He's the most evolved.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm petting my puppy. In case you can't. Because you keep seeing his ear, and you see me doing weird things. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm petting my puppy.
Okay.
What's the next one?
The next one is Disney on Ice.
Disney. It's not Disney. That's how I wrote it. Disney on Ice. Yeah,
I don't know what's wrong with
that.
that.
Show, don't they?
They do have that, but there's nothing wrong with it. Excuse me, we're bobbling around here. Excuse us just one moment.
Okay.
Disney on Ice.
Right, which doesn't refer to
Disney on Ice.
No.
So what is it if you wrote Disney on Ice? Were you confused? Ice on Disney?
Ice on Disney has been put on ice, I guess.
Oh, Walt Disney.
Walt Disney. They
Frozen.
Yep, that's the.
They froze his head.
It's an urban legend.
You can go find it. It's over in the Smithsonian.
The claim is that either all of him, or just his head, or just his brain, depending on which version you hear, has been cryogenically frozen so that he can be woken up.
Or in some way contained so that it can be kept in pristine condition. So he could be brought back in some later date.
Right. And this has repeatedly been denied, both by his
proven
family and by the various people who own the cryogenic freezing agency. Now, you can get cryogenically frozen at the time of your death. It is legal, and there are a couple of companies that do it, but
there's no guarantee it's going to work.
No, there's no guarantee it's going to work. They've never successfully woke anyone up and saved their life, but that would be really cool if they did.
Not yet.
I mean, he'd be a great person to do that on, but he didn't choose to do that, and his family interred him.
Yes.
Yes, sadly, he is gone. They also did not freeze Hitler's brain. If you heard that one, that's false too. Or Robert Heinlein. Sorry.
Or many other people.
That would be nice if they did, but they didn't. It's always people that you would like to see come back, or that you think
you like to see Hitler back,
or
maybe it could be
that would be sort of like this great spooky story to tell. That's kind of the idea. It's like, ooh, did you know they froze Hitler and he's gonna come back? No, he's not.
And his finger falls off.
Okay, so what's the next one?
He goes, "Heil!" and his arm falls off.
It's not true. And we'll post the address for the companies that do the
those
cryogenic freezing.
Those of you who believe Snopes, it's also on there.
It's also on Snopes.
And then here's my favorite one, which is the fact that no one dies in Disney World. I didn't say Disneyland, in Disney World specifically.
Disney World. Yes, no one
because
dies.
Disneyland there is it's not as kept.
The claim is that Disney World has. It's not that no one dies there. It's that Disney World has put out like an order that if someone dies on their property, they have to be transported off property and then they can be declared dead.
Basically, it's based off of the fact that it's supposedly hard to find where anyone was pronounced dead on the scene in the parks, which we all know is false.
Yeah, Snopes actually had listed a couple of deaths that have been declared in the park. The reason that you don't find many, even though there have been lots of deaths, not lots, but there have been quite a few deaths.
Many of them
over the years in the
will
parks.
have died when they get to the hospital or on the way to it.
It may be that they died on the way to the hospital. The other thing is that there are certain laws about who can declare a death.
Yes.
So even if you come upon a dead body and they're cold and stone hard and they've been there for 3 days, you or I or he cannot declare that person dead.
Shucks.
Only certain doctors and
morticians,
medical examiners can declare death. In some places, depending on where you are, there are other
rules that allow that. But
sometimes
Florida,
like paramedics or something.
Around that area.
But in most places, you got to be certain doctors, not even all doctors, just certain doctors, and or a medical examiner or
certified to be able to
coroner.
Say that.
So, medical examiner or coroner, depending on where you are, etc. So for that reason, a lot of people may have died in the parks, but they were transferred to the hospital, and then the medical examiner or coroner declared them dead.
You gotta look into the cause of death, people.
And then you have to think, too, especially with modern medicine and stuff, that we do absolutely everything we can to save lives. So even if we find you have no heartbeat and you're not breathing, we're going to put the oxygen mask on you, we're going to administer CPR, and we're going to transport you. Therefore, even though you may have died at the park, before we give up and say, yeah, you're not coming back, you're probably going to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
So that's one reason that you see so few that have been declared dead in the parks. I mean, there isn't a coroner just waiting around the corner to make that declaration. And usually they're not going to call the coroner to the park. They're going to try to get you to the hospital and then, deal with it. But there have been, if you look on Snopes, they've discussed a couple of cases where people were declared dead in the parks. And Disney has denied that there is any such order. They never gave any such order. You gotta think about this common sense wise. Even if they gave that order,
ain't no one gonna follow it.
If I'm a doctor, am I gonna risk losing my license and being hauled into court to testify, and maybe even charged with a crime?
They have no legal ability to put such an order out there.
Who are they gonna put? They might tell their employees that they're not allowed, but your employees can't declare a death anyway. So.
You keep this hush-hush, like any company would.
I know, yeah, exactly. When people say, well, they never talk about it.
Well, neither
if
would
your
I.
job is entertaining people and convincing them that your park is safe, are you really going to talk about people who died in your park?
Do you think American Airlines is going to say, oh, yes, we lost 38,000 people on a couple of different days? No.
You just kind of deal with it quietly and you go on. It's not like they deny it. Like if you actually ask them, has anyone ever died in the park? They might try to change the subject, but if you pin them down, they'll say, well, yeah, people have died in the park. It's just not something we prefer to concentrate on. We'd rather talk about Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So people have, and along with that, there are no people buried in the graveyard at the Haunted Mansion. That's a myth. Not true. And it is not legal to spread your ashes. And we talk about that on another episode. It's not legal to spread human remains
in their own property. It's not to say it doesn't happen, but you're not supposed to.
Yes. It's never officially happened.
Yes. So the cult and all conquering mouse cult of who? Who is this?
This is the I have never heard this before. This is the first time I've ever heard this particular conspiracy theory. And it's on one particular website, and I'll put the address up there for you so you can check it out yourself. You'll probably love getting all the extra traffic. It's called the Cult of, and I hope I say this right, Penuniket, but it's the all-conquering mice. It's a cult that got started in Egypt pretty late in the various dynasties, 19-something BCE. So, and it was not a particularly popular cult. It was not a very large cult, and it wasn't a cult that did a lot of death dances and built huge monuments. So, of course, most people have never heard of it. He traces it all the way through to modern times. I start getting skeptical once we start talking about Nixon and Hitler. Okay, I'm sorry. There is no evidence, none, that Hitler belonged to any mouse cult. No. He had many crazy beliefs, but he wrote about them pretty openly, and he never worshipped mice. My goodness. So that's just nonsense. It's just silliness. Same thing with the supposed Nixon quote about penny nickel, or whatever the heck. What? There's no evidence that Nixon belonged to any mouse cult or anyone else famous ever did. Making
I'm not a crook, but I believe in mice.
I don't see Nixon showing up at any stupid mouse cult parties and. I think we beat that dead horse.
Why would anyone beat a dead horse?
Why would anyone beat a live horse?
Because he kicked you.
Thanks, Dilbert.
So, here's an interesting thing. About half the internet thinks that Walt was a commie, and the other half thinks that Walt was a commie hater.
Yeah, that just goes to show you that when you're rich and famous, people will hate you, regardless. And they'll project on you whatever their favorite hate group is. Now, there is no doubt, we do know that he testified before Congress during the big Red Scare.
True.
There's no evidence that he particularly outed anyone that wasn't already outed. But he did testify. Mm-hmm. And he did feel that there was a communist threat. I mean, he said himself, and many of his friends have talked about it, how he felt that communism was a great threat. And he did forbid Nikita Khrushchev. Part. Well, was it him directly that did it, or did someone in the company?
I think it was more of a company.
But regardless, Khrushchev is one of the few world leaders who's been denied entry to the park. But yes, he was anti-communist, as most people were at that time. He did love his country very much. He's very patriotic. So, and he likes, freedom. He's in love with that ideal of the individual. Manifest destiny and all that sort of thing. As you can tell, if you go through Streets of America or the Mark Twain area in the parks, you kind of get that feeling. He's really in love with America and with freedom and so forth, as he saw it. But that doesn't mean that he was out there trying to hunt down communists among his fellow Hollywood elites. There's no evidence of that. As far as that he is a communist, I think this is mostly based on, again, when we're talking about those hidden symbols.
Yeah.
I think that's where they're getting it from. Because there was one that they show. If you guys are aware of the symbol that has Mickey dressed as a magician or sorcerer.
So the sorcerer Mickey waves his hand across, and there's like the sparkles of magic in between his hands, kind of like making a rainbow. And at the same time, there happens to be an asteroid that flies by or something like that.
Like a little comet that intersects. And they say that looks like a hammer and sickle. But if you think about it, it's not only is it upside down and backwards, it wouldn't actually be pointing the right way if you turned it. So that's a really crappy. I mean, if you were a communist and were trying to sneak in the hammer and sickle,
there's a lot better ways to do it.
You suck at it. You're not good at it.
You would think that would have been what would have been on his cape instead of the stars.
Yeah, you would think that they would have thrown in a couple of hammer and sickles or something, or had him carrying a sickle instead of a broom. I don't know. I think that's just more projecting.
Yes,
I think that's what
very much so projecting. So have we beat that horse too?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can say about it because people are going to believe it no matter what. If you hate communists and you don't like Disney, then he must have been a communist. If you hate communists and you like Disney, he was an anti-communist. If you hate people who are anti-communist and you hate Disney, you know what I mean? It's just...
It's a web.
Yeah.
It's a very tangled
Can't
web.
win that one.
So, Walt Disney built a bunker under Magic Kingdom.
No bunker.
There's utilidors.
Yeah. And this is true. I found that out when I was checking into this thing. The utilidors at one time were designated as a hurricane disaster.
Yeah, they were.
Rescue site. If there was a hurricane and they needed to evacuate people, they were supposed to take them to the utilidors. And it would be safe because it's concrete. It's underground. Unfortunately, they also
flood a lot
because it's built underwater.
It's built on ground level,
below the water table. Because it's swampland in Florida.
Because in case you didn't know, Magic Kingdom is actually on the second floor to keep it bone dry.
Right. So there are utilidors built under Magic Kingdom. That is true. They're not under the other parks because they found out it was just way too expensive and so forth. It was a good idea, but not
especially
one
when as cheap as land as it is, you could just plan better.
Yeah. They decided they didn't need to do that after all, but it was a good idea. And they still provide shelter for employees during storms and things. They were also designated as in case there was a nuclear disaster. However, now there are better available facilities, so they don't use them anymore. It's not that they're not still, the Disney company wouldn't make them available if they needed them. They just have better ones now. Plus, the number of people living in that area has grown
exponentially.
You would not be able to evacuate all of Orlando to the utilidors. As expensive as they are, they're not quite that expensive. But there's no bomb shelter under there. We know that because the employees go there all the time. They walk through all of those tunnels. They go to all the rooms. There are facilities under there for the employees of all kinds. We've been through parts of them. On tours, you can go on them. If there was a giant bunker under there,
somebody would have seen it by now.
You'd know. It would have been
on official
and everybody
plans.
would be talking about it. I was there once. There are some like hidden rooms and forgotten rooms and stuff, but they're not nearly large enough to be considered a bunker.
No.
And why would he have built a bunker there? He didn't live there.
No.
He would have built it under his house like most people did in the 50s when they were worried about being nuked. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yes. He would have built it near his trains.
But it is a cool ideal to like imagine if you could go, digging under Disney and find a hidden bunker. I think those kind of rumors will always exist because they're cool to imagine. So is that 10?
No.
Oh, well, what are we still missing?
That Walt was a Nazi.
Ah, one of my favorites.
Hail Walt!
It doesn't even sound reasonable, does it? It's based on the fact that he cooperated with the rocket designer. I can't think of his name right now.
Okay.
He was a very famous rocket designer, and he did work with Walt in creating some of his rides, and especially in Tomorrowland.
Yes. Hint.
And there were some other former Nazis who actually participate overall in the whole project. But you have to remember that those foreign Nazis were brought to the United States by the United States government for the purpose of helping the United States government with their science projects and their rocket technology and space program and so forth. So those people were already in the United States. They were considered either United States citizens or permanent legal resident aliens, assisting the United States government. They were not considered Nazis anymore. They were former Nazis. And the extent to which they participated in any Nazi program is up for debate. Certainly at the time, Walt would not have known if they were involved in, terrible Nazi programs, because the government would have been covering that up for them. A couple of them, of those people, were later found to have uglier past than we were led to believe. But this, average citizen was not told that, and they wouldn't walk around going to their future boss, "Hey, by the way, did you know I helped kill Jews?" They wouldn't say that, so he had no way of knowing that. He had every reason to believe that they were just honest people who were, of course, if you were in Germany, you were part of the Nazi program because you were required to be. And if you were a scientist, you either worked for the Nazis or they killed you. So it's not entirely fair to make that association. Would I have chosen to work with Nazis? I don't know. I'd like to think I wouldn't, but I might have. I don't know. They were certainly the most. Without knowing it. Yeah, you might have without knowing it. They were certainly the most qualified. That's why we were using them to advise us on our rocket program and later with our space program, because they knew what the heck they were doing. So the thing is, he never took any sort of oath. He never went to any Nazi meetings. He was never seen in any Nazi uniforms. There have been lots of rumors that was true, but there's not one shred of actual evidence. No one has ever brought a picture forward. They've never shown a log where people sign in that had his name. There's no one who was actually high up in any of those Nazi organizations at the time who could say Walt was a member, nor did he participate in any Nazi organization before we declared war. And there were lots of Americans who were Nazi sympathizers before the war, and who even belonged to the Nazi Party. There was a Nazi Party in the U.S., and Walt was not a member, although he was associated with several people who were members. But anyone in Hollywood did, because the movement was big. Hollywood always has the wackies. They had the communists, they had the Nazis, they have the Scientologists. Any new group that comes along, they're going to get started in Hollywood first. And if you're big in Hollywood and have friends in Hollywood, you're going to associate with those people, it doesn't mean that he necessarily believed anything they had to say.
And there's no reason to assume anyone did.
And to say that he was a Nazi is just really, especially at the time of building the Disney World. By then, I'm pretty sure he was not a Nazi. He was a very ardent patriot, American patriot.
Yeah,
so
very
it's
much
silly.
Nice going, eh, Adolf?
Anything else?
That is 10.
That was 10.
That was
so,
10.
And,
10.
and that's not even all the conspiracy theories out there on the internet. You know, do check.
It was just
some
the
of them
first
out.
10 we found.
They're all very fascinating, and they're all, as far as I can tell, completely bogus, or nearly completely bogus.
Or nearly partially completely bogus.
I just think it's hilarious when they find 666 in his name. You're trying too hard.
A little bit.
And the mouse cult. I'm going to be laughing about that one for a while.
Cult of the Mouse.
Cult of the Mouse. Okay. You and Nixon and Hitler. Next.
That's it.
Okay, well, stay tuned with us when we next talk about something,
Who knows what?
something else, some other thing.